The UK rapper Digga has been jailed for 3 years and 11 months for selling 45 kilos of cannabis after helping import the drug from the US. Digga was arrested after police launched a raid on his property near Lincoln in the early hours of February the 21st last year, whilst he was broadcasting live on Instagram. The rapper, whose real name is Rhys Herbert, pleaded guilty last May to importing 3.5 kilos of cannabis in June and July 2023 and a further charge. However, during a trial of the issue, which is known as a Newton hearing, the 24-year-old denied being involved in a commercial transaction of up to 60 kilos. Judge Simon Hurst decided on the level of Digga's dealing after hearing 2 days of evidence because the prosecution did not accept the basis of his pleas. Passing sentence today, Judge Hurst said he was satisfied Rhys Herbert had played a significant role in selling for a commercial profit. Judge Hurst said, "I am satisfied so that I am first sure Mr. Herbert was involved in the supply over a period of at least 7 months from about January 2023 to July 2023. Second, the amount which came into the possession of Mr. Herbert was at least 50 kilos. Third, with some reservations, I am prepared to accept that Mr. Herbert was himself using 28 grams per week over 5 months and that some drugs were shared with others. Said even considering that there were friends in Lincoln with him at some times, music engineers when in the studio and a management team, it is difficult to see how more than 5 kilos could be consumed by those people. Said I'm satisfied so that I am sure that at least 45 kilos was sold on. Fourth, it was sold on for a commercial profit. The court heard Herbert had 6 previous convictions for 13 offences, including possessing an offensive weapon and violent disorder, for which he was sentenced to 30 months in youth detention in March 2020. In his defence, his KC, James Scooby, argued there had been a determined effort to besmirch his client during the investigation and said none of his previous convictions were relevant. He said all the matters were when he was a teenager at the time. He was 18 at the time of the last offence. This is very much a first offence in terms of drug supply. He said he is clearly in a unique position to obtain these drugs without being in a chain for many years, and Your Honour knows those reasons. He said Your Honour found he was involved in the supply for 7 months. Clearly it was intermittent. There were periods where he was out of the country. Court was also handed letters from Mr. Herbert's mother and aunt, which expressed his remorse and detailed his reading of the Bible whilst in jail every single day. Defence said Herbert was an only child and urged he isn't a danger to the public. He is someone who contributes to the public. Herbert, who spent the last 10 months on remand at HMP Wormwood Scrubs, followed the sentencing hearing via a video link from the jail. During the hearing, it was heard Herbert said he began smoking cannabis from the age of 12 and used the drug throughout his teenage years to help with his frequent migraines. He claimed it was a benefit to buy it in bulk as he could afford it and it proved cheaper. He said buying in bulk also reduced the chance of him coming to the attention of police, as he was often stopped both in London and elsewhere in the country. He said he also obtained bags to use in the video for some of his songs. He also stressed that the artist had earnings in excess of £3 million at the time of the dealing activity. The court heard 2 sets of weighing scales and a grinder were recovered from his home where he lived with his mother, and mobile phone footage of the star handling a bag of cannabis and allegedly complaining about the quality was also played to the judge. A number of photographs also showed Herbert handling large amounts of cash. He said he explained that he was an internationally recognised musician. His real name is Rhys Herbert, but his musician name is Digga, and he has a legitimate income and he has made millions. He makes videos and he's demonstrated that that's how he gets his large amounts of money. But as I said, the judge has jailed him for just under 4 years. Let me know what you think in the comments below. 4 men have been jailed for handling more than 5,000 stolen mobile phones as London's phone snatching epidemic reaches a crisis point. Some victims had thousands of pounds stolen from their accounts, while others even saw large sums spent on designer clothes or even loans taken out on their name. Some even got access into their cryptocurrency accounts and wiped them clean. Over an 18-month period, Zachariah Senjek used 31, Ahmed Abdul Hakim Ben Laf used 25, Nazir Chetratitia used 34, and Riyad Mamoon used 25. Were at the centre of the terrifying trend of gadget grabbing sweeping our capital city. Their crimes total a whopping 5.1 million, and investigation found with many of the devices believed to have been sold abroad. It comes as 64,000 mobile phones are reported to have been stolen in London last year, double the number in the 2 previous years. The criminals, often riding mopeds or illegally modified e-bikes, speed around corners and along pavements, catching unsuspecting tourists and locals off guard. The 4 men are all jailed today, with Sendjeki receiving 8 years for conspiracy to receive stolen goods, conspiracy to commit fraud and false representation, and possessing an ID with improper intention. Balanifi was convicted of conspiracy to receive stolen goods and conspiracy to commit fraud by false representation and was jailed for 4 years and 8 months. Chatratisia was convicted of conspiracy to receive stolen goods and possessing an ID documentation with proper intention. He was sentenced to 3 years and 5 months. Whereas Mamuni was convicted of conspiracy to receive stolen goods and sentenced to 2 years and 8 months. The group were tracked down by police after multiple victims reported they had tracked their stolen devices to 2 London addresses. During raids on February the 26th, officers found 170 phones believed to have been stolen, and they believe thousands more were victims to the group. Commander Owen Richards from the Met Police said, "I want to commend the borough-based local officers involved in the excellent work in tracking down these individuals and ensuring they were brought to justice. We do not underestimate the impact these crimes have on Londoners, and we are doing all we can to tackle phone thefts. This includes increasing policing in hotspot areas and making better use of technology. However, we need the phone companies to play their parts and make it more difficult for criminals to resell these stolen devices. The Met will be speaking with them in the coming weeks to push this issue further up the chain." Police have not yet been able to track down all the owners of the phone seized during the raid on February the 26th, and the Met is urging anyone who has lost a mobile phone to use the National Mobile Phone Register so recovered phones can be restored. Criminals riding e-bikes and mopeds have increasingly been using violence and distraction tactics to target victims. So the worst hit borough was the city of Westminster, where tourists flocked for theatre shows and high-end shopping, with 18,000 reported incidents in the year to December, up 47% from the previous 12 months. Camden was the second worst affected with 4,800 incidents, followed by Suffolk for 4,300, Hackney 2,700, Newham 2,500, Lambeth 2,300, and Islington 2,100. A number of MPs are now reported to have fallen victim to the muggers who are typically captured on camera stealing devices around the upmarket Mayfair area and along Oxford Street. Labour MP Chris Webb, who by his own admission is a big fella at 6'2", he also fell to a group of muggers, and he was a victim himself this month. He'd been walking to a local shop to pick up a delivery close to his parliamentary property in London when a gang of bikers rolled up alongside and snatched the phone from his pocket.